Now we will see how to work with different distributions and how to differentiate distributions and their use cases. First, let's define what exactly is a distribution. We can say it's a function that specifies the probability with which each number will be generated. Remember when we discussed properties of random generators and we mentioned the uniformity or the uniform distribution of the generated numbers. This can be our first distribution to be mentioned, the uniform distribution. In other words, all numbers have the same probability of being generated. In this example, we can see that the generated numbers are between 0 and 1 on the x-axis, and their frequency, or the number of times these numbers occurred, on the y-axis. In some applications, we might want to generate numbers using different distributions. For example, a triangular form distribution, or the normal distribution, or any other custom function that can be defined by the user. Now let's see how we can generate numbers following any type of distribution. From uniform generators, we can generate any type of distributions. Actually, this is why all of the random generators provide a uniform distribution by default. So when we call a function or a random numbers generator that is provided in Python or in NumPy, we will get a uniform distribution for the numbers by default. We will then use the rejection method. Imagine we have this simple function, and we want to use this function as a distribution or probability function to generate numbers between 1 and 2. So ideally, at the end, the frequencies of the generated numbers would be represented in this histogram, where we can see that they follow the trend of the original distribution function. The algorithm to generate these numbers is the following. First, we generate a random number, u, means uniform, between 1 and 2 using the uniform generator. Imagine we got the number somewhere around this arrow. Then we define the maximum value of the distribution, and we generate another random number between 0 and this maximum that we just computed. At this point, we have two possible scenarios. If the last generated number following the y-axis is above the original distribution line, then the first random number, u, is rejected or simply not retained for the simulation. The second scenario is if the latter y number on the y-axis falls below the original distribution line, then in this case, we retain u, the uniform random number, to be used in our simulation. So why do we do all of this, and how does this method work? Let's take two extreme values in this example. The uniform u that is close to 1, in this case, the acceptance probability is much lower than the rejection probability, which is the area above the distribution line. Now, if we take u, the uniform number that is closer to 2, we notice that the rejection probability is very minimal, and the acceptance probability is much greater, which means that numbers closer to 2 have greater chances of being retained in the simulation, while those closer to 1 are more prone for rejection. And this also means that at the end, in our final random sequence, we will have more numbers that are closer to 2, or we call these higher numbers, than lower numbers that are closer to the value 1. Now, if we take a closer look, we notice that there is a lot of cases where points are above the original distribution line, and therefore these points are points assigned to rejected values. And this might become computationally taxing in some cases, especially for specific types of distributions where the curve is asymptotic and the maximum is relatively high. This defines a relatively large area of rejection versus a very small area of acceptance. So why is this important? Because if we have a very large area of rejection, this is a wasted computation. We have a lot of computation that's not producing any useful random numbers in the simulation. So we're just retaining the acceptance area numbers. And if this is a very small proportion, then most of our computation time is wasted on the rejected points. And of course, as we have just mentioned, this will largely depend on the shape and the form of the function itself, the distribution itself. This same rejection method can be used to generate numbers from any continuous distribution function. If we consider the normal distribution, for example, we can compute its maximum, generate random values on the x-axis, then generate random values on the y-axis between 0 and the maximum, and accept the generated values based on the rejection criteria. Notice that the central values on the x-axis have the highest probabilities of being accepted because most of the generated vertical points would fall under the bell curve peak. So that's a very high probability peak, while the values spreaded from the center have a high rejection probability or area because most of the vertical random points would fall above the original distribution line, which is the rejection area. And this is how the central points on the x-axis are more accepted. So we have more of these. There will be more frequent in the random numbers sequence, while the spreaded points on the x-axis that are spreaded around or away from the center, they will be less frequent. So this rejection method will respect the shape of the curve that we are using as a probability density function. And this was it for this video. This was it for the rejection method.